The Boy Unleashes the Gates of Evil. Genre: horror, mystery, drama. Opening scene. The small, quiet town of Ashford had always seemed peaceful, nestled at the edge of an ancient forest. But deep within its heart, there were secrets buried for centuries. It all began with a boy, 12-year-old Ethan, who had recently moved into the town with his single mother, Sarah. One evening, while playing near the old ruins on the outskirts of the forest, Ethan stumbled upon a strange, weathered book half buried beneath a mound of earth. The cover was adorned with strange symbols, and the pages were filled with cryptic writings in an ancient language. Ethan, despite feeling an unsettling chill in the air, couldn't resist the temptation to open the book. As he read aloud, unaware of the consequences, a dark, oppressive wind began to swirl around him. The earth trembled, and the sky darkened. From deep within the forest, the ground cracked open, and a colossal gate, a gateway to an ancient evil, began to emerge from the soil. Ethan's innocent words had awakened something that had been dormant for centuries. The unraveling mystery. The next morning, strange things began happening around town. People started experiencing terrifying nightmares, and shadows seemed to move on their own. Ethan tried to forget the events of the previous night, but he couldn't escape the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Sarah, his mother, began to investigate the strange occurrences, suspecting they were tied to the ancient ruins and the mysterious book. The more she learned, the more she realized that the town had been built on the remnants of an old, forgotten cult, whose members had sealed away a malevolent force long ago. The book, it seemed, was the key to the gates that held the evil at bay. As the days passed, the evil's influence over the town grew stronger. People disappeared, animals were found mutilated, and the very air felt thick with dread. The once thriving town was slowly succumbing to the darkness Ethan had unwittingly unleashed. The struggle against the darkness. In a desperate bid to save the town, Ethan and Sarah sought the help of a reclusive historian, Professor Langley, who had spent his life studying the occult. Langley explained that the boys' reading had opened a portal to the underworld, and unless the gate was closed, the evil would consume everything. The trio set off to find the lost temple hidden deep within the forest, where the gate could be sealed once more. But the closer they got to the temple, the more they realized the true extent of the darkness that had been unleashed. Ethan was no longer sure if he could control the power he had awakened, and the evil seemed to have its sights set on him. The final confrontation. In the heart of the temple, Ethan faced an impossible choice: use the book's dark power to close the gate, or risk the entire town's annihilation. As shadows of terrifying creatures loomed around them, Ethan, with the help of his mother and Professor Langley, began the ritual to close the gate. But as the ceremony reached its climax, Ethan was confronted by an ancient, twisted figure, the embodiment of the evil he had unleashed. It whispered promises of power and freedom, trying to corrupt his soul. The boy struggled, torn between saving his town and succumbing to the temptation of ultimate power. In a moment of clarity, Ethan realized that the only way to seal the gate for good was to destroy the book and sacrifice the power it held. With a final, defiant scream, he hurled the book into the flames of the temple's altar. The gate shuddered, groaned, and finally collapsed, sealing away the evil forever. Epilogue. As the dust settled, Ethan, Sarah, and Professor Langley emerged from the temple, exhausted but victorious. The town of Ashford began to heal, but the memory of the darkness would remain forever. Ethan had learned a powerful lesson about the dangers of curiosity and the consequences of meddling with forces beyond understanding. But in the quiet moments, when the wind howled through the trees, he could still feel the lingering presence of the evil he had unleashed. And though the gates were closed, he knew they would never truly be gone. The end. The Boy Unleashes the Gates of Evil. Part 2, The Awakening. Genre: horror, mystery, drama. Opening scene. Months have passed since Ethan sealed the ancient evil away, and life in Ashford has returned to a fragile semblance of normalcy. The people of the town have moved on, but Ethan can't shake the feeling that something is still lurking in the shadows. The town seems too quiet, almost as if it's holding its breath, waiting for the next disaster to strike. Ethan's nightmares have returned, filled with cryptic symbols and the whispers of the entity he thought he had destroyed. Late one night, as Ethan walks through the now eerily silent town square, he stumbles upon an unfamiliar figure, a tall, cloaked man standing at the edge of the forest. The figure's eyes glow with an unnatural light, and in his hand, he clutches a twisted version of the book Ethan had destroyed months ago. It was impossible. The book was gone, or so Ethan thought. Before he can react, the figure vanishes into the night, leaving Ethan with a gnawing dread in his chest. Something ancient has stirred once again, and this time, it's worse than before. The return of the darkness. The following days bring new signs of the curse's return. Shadows move in the corners of the town, strange symbols begin to appear on doorways, and an unnatural chill grips the air. Ethan, now a year older, begins to investigate the sightings and strange occurrences with his mother, Sarah, and Professor Langley, who had since returned to the area after hearing about the unsettling events. They discover that the figure Ethan saw was no mere illusion but a manifestation of the evil's influence. The book, it turns out, had been only one of several artifacts created by the cult long ago. Though the original gate was sealed, there were still cracks in the barrier between their world and the underworld. These cracks were growing, and they seemed to be feeding on Ethan's guilt, on the boy who had accidentally unleashed the darkness to begin with. Sarah and Langley explained that the cult had left behind a series of hidden artifacts, each capable of weakening the barrier between worlds. The book Ethan had destroyed was only one piece in a much larger puzzle. The more Ethan dug, the more he learned about the terrible price the town had paid for its silence, and the terrible truth that the evil could never truly be contained. A new enemy. The darkness that once threatened Ashford now has a new face. The cloaked man, known as the Warden, is revealed to be a fallen member of the original cult. He has been searching for the artifacts to open a second, much more powerful gate, one that would allow the full force of the underworld to flood the earth. The Warden, who possesses knowledge of forbidden magic, begins his hunt for the remaining artifacts, slowly unraveling the town's defenses. As he grows stronger, so does the evil that has been sealed. Ethan begins to feel the pressure mounting on him once again. It's as if the evil is drawn to him, feeding off his fear, his doubts, and his past mistake. He can no longer escape the legacy of the darkness he unknowingly unleashed. The Hidden Temple. With no time to waste, Ethan and Sarah, joined by Professor Langley, set out to find the lost temple where the final artifact is hidden, the key to sealing the gate forever. They venture deep into the forest, where they encounter horrific manifestations of the evil's influence. Each step takes them closer to the temple, but also closer to the edge of their own sanity. The Warden, now aware of their quest, is never far behind, using dark magic to thwart their every move. The closer they get to the temple, the more Ethan begins to doubt his ability to stop the evil. His guilt over what happened in the past clouds his judgment, and the darkness calls to him, promising him power and absolution if he joins its side. In a moment of weakness, Ethan almost succumbs to the temptation, but Sarah's voice pulls him back, reminding him of the stakes and the love they share. The final battle. In the depths of the temple, Ethan, Sarah, and Langley face the Warden in a climactic battle. The Warden reveals his ultimate plan. He intends to open the gate completely, unleashing an army of demonic entities that will bring an end to the world as they know it. But he also reveals the true nature of Ethan's power. The boy himself is a key, a living conduit capable of fully opening the gates. As the final moments approach, Ethan is faced with a devastating choice: give in to the Warden's offer and gain ultimate power, or sacrifice everything to protect the world he loves. In a moment of clarity, Ethan realizes that the only way to stop the evil is to sacrifice himself, using his life force to seal the gate forever. With his mother and Langley's help, Ethan recites the incantation, triggering a cataclysmic force that engulfs the temple. The gate shudders and collapses, pulling the Warden and the evil back into the abyss. But as the temple crumbles around them, Ethan's fate is sealed. He vanishes into the void, his sacrifice ensuring that the darkness can never return. Epilogue. The town of Ashford begins to heal once again. Sarah, devastated by the loss of her son, continues to honor Ethan's memory. Professor Langley, having narrowly escaped the destruction of the temple, writes the final chapter of the book that details the true history of the cult and the events that nearly destroyed their world. But even in the quiet aftermath, there is a lingering sense of unease. The town remains forever changed, and the knowledge that the darkness can never be fully destroyed hangs heavy in the air. And somewhere, deep beneath the earth, The faintest whisper echoes, a reminder that evil never truly dies. The end. The Boy Unleashes the Gates of Evil. Part 3, The Rising Shadow. Genre, horror, mystery, drama. Opening scene. The town of Ashford is slowly returning to normal. The memories of the chaos that Ethan had faced are fading, and the people continue their lives, though a quiet unease lingers in the air. Sarah, Ethan's mother, visits his grave each day, still holding on to the hope that her son's sacrifice was not in vain. But deep down, she knows the evil has not been entirely eradicated. On the surface, Ashford appears peaceful, but strange occurrences are resurfacing. Unexplainable deaths, unsettling figures appearing at the edge of the forest, and a growing sense that something darker is brewing. Ethan's sacrifice may have sealed the gate, but the forces of evil were not destroyed, they were merely dormant. And this time, it's not just Ashford at risk. A mysterious visitor. One chilly evening, a mysterious figure arrives in Ashford, a woman named Isabella, with eyes that seem to reflect the very essence of the darkness. She claims to be a watcher, someone who has been tracking the remnants of the cult for years. Isabella reveals that she had been searching for the artifacts long before Ethan ever stumbled upon them. The truth is, the cult's reach extends far beyond Ashford. Isabella warns Sarah that the evil is not confined to the gate they sealed. The cult had once planned for an event they called the Second Rising, where the last remaining key, the spirit of a bloodline cursed to carry the essence of the evil, would bring forth an eternal night. And the key, Isabella reveals, is none other than Ethan's bloodline, his mother. The darkness still seeks to rise, and Sarah's blood holds the final key to unlocking the Second Rising. The hidden legacy. Devastated by the news, Sarah digs into her own past. She discovers that her family has been tied to the cult for generations, though her ancestors had rebelled and helped to lock away the evil centuries ago. Sarah learns that her bloodline had been cursed, destined to bear the weight of the evil and its power. The cult had always known that one day, the darkness would return, and Sarah's family would play a pivotal role in its resurrection. Realizing that she holds the key to the next chapter of the horror, Sarah is torn between protecting her family and the truth about her ancestry. She begins to understand that the spirit of Ethan is not truly gone. His sacrifice has left a lingering trace of his essence. Ethan may have given his life to close the gate, but the evil sought to use his bloodline to re-enter the world. The Second Rising. Meanwhile, the cult, hidden in the shadows of the world, has regained its strength. The Warden, though defeated, had been merely an avatar for a far darker, ancient entity known as the Master. The Master was the original force behind the cult's creation, an unimaginable entity from beyond the veil. And now, it seeks to claim Sarah as its own, using her blood to bring forth the full power of the Second Rising. Isabella, Sarah, and a group of trusted allies set out to stop the cult from using Sarah's blood to awaken the Master. They travel through forgotten ruins and ancient tombs, deciphering cryptic texts and searching for the remaining hidden keys, ancient seals meant to contain the darkness for good. As they delve deeper into the cult's secrets, they begin to understand that the evil is far more powerful than anything they had previously encountered. The final choice. The group soon uncovers the final location of the Second Rising, a temple hidden beneath the ruins of an old, abandoned cathedral. As they enter the heart of the temple, they find themselves facing a terrifying truth. The Master has already begun to manifest, using Sarah's bloodline to open the final rift. The boundaries between the worlds are growing thin, and the fabric of reality is beginning to tear apart. In the temple's inner sanctum, the Master reveals its true form, an amalgamation of shadow, fire, and nightmares. It speaks to Sarah in whispers, trying to seduce her into joining with it, offering her unimaginable power. But Sarah, now understanding her role, refuses. The darkness, however, is determined. It tries to force her to open the final rift by taking her blood. But Sarah fights back, using the ancient seals she's uncovered to counter the Master's power. In a desperate final move, Isabella reveals that there's only one way to stop the Master for good. Sarah must perform the ritual herself, closing the gate for eternity, but this time, the cost will be far higher. To seal the rift, Sarah must willingly bind herself to the darkness, locking her soul in a prison from which she will never escape. The ultimate sacrifice. The scene is harrowing, as Sarah faces a choice no mother should ever have to make. She can save the world, but at the cost of her soul. With no other choice, Sarah prepares to seal the rift. Knowing that this will be her final moment, she calls out to Ethan, hoping his spirit still lingers in some form, asking for strength. As she begins the ritual, the Master fights back fiercely, but Sarah's resolve is unwavering. In a surge of power, she completes the ritual, trapping the Master back into the void, sealing the rift once and for all. The temple collapses, and Sarah is consumed by the darkness, her body and soul forever bound to the void. Epilogue. Ashford is saved, but at a terrible cost. Isabella, now the sole survivor of the mission, returns to the town, carrying the memory of Sarah's sacrifice. The town, though at peace for now, will always remember the curse that plagued it. Ashford has witnessed the end of one era of darkness, but the ancient evil will never truly be gone. As the years pass, strange phenomena continue to occur in the town, but the true evil remains hidden beneath the surface. And though the gates are closed, some things are never truly sealed. Somewhere, deep within the fabric of the world, the shadows stir, and a faint voice calls out from the darkness, a voice that sounds eerily familiar. The end. For now. The Boy Unleashes the Gates of Evil. Part 4, Echoes of the Abyss. Genre, horror, mystery, drama. Opening scene. Ashford has moved on in the years since Sarah's sacrifice, yet there is an unsettling quiet in the air. The town, though seemingly at peace, has changed. The once vibrant streets are now somber, filled with people who no longer speak of the past horrors. The world continues to turn, but something stirs beneath the surface. The gates that were sealed are not as impenetrable as everyone hoped, and the darkness has only gone dormant. It is now waiting, patient, for the right moment to rise again. In the heart of Ashford, an unassuming man named Daniel has just arrived. He is a former occult researcher who had once worked alongside Professor Langley in tracking the remnants of the cult. He is unaware of the town's full history, but he has come to investigate the unexplained disappearances of a number of young people in recent months. These disappearances have been spreading across the country, all with eerily similar signs, symbols of an ancient language, strange markings on the bodies of the missing, and inexplicable bloodstains. His investigation leads him to Ashford, a place that feels strangely familiar. As Daniel digs deeper, he uncovers forgotten documents, hidden from the public eye, fragments of the same dark history that Ethan, Sarah, and Langley had tried to destroy. The unraveling. Daniel finds an old journal, written by Professor Langley, detailing his final days after the temple's collapse. It becomes clear that Langley knew the truth about the evil that had not truly been defeated. It had only been banished for a time. The Master's essence had found a way to leave a trace in the world, hidden within a specific bloodline. The ritual performed by Sarah, though successful in closing the gate, had left a residual opening, one that the evil could use to slowly re-enter the world. As Daniel pieces together the dark legacy of the cult, he discovers that the Master's true goal was never to simply return. It wanted to merge with the world of the living, permanently. To do this, it needed not only the blood of Sarah's line but also the willingness of a soul untainted by the past, someone who had never been involved with the cult, someone like Daniel himself. The Awakening of the Dark. One night, Daniel is drawn to the edge of the forest, where the final remnants of the temple once stood. As he steps into the clearing, a feeling of unease washes over him. The air is thick with the scent of decay and something darker, more primal. A part of him feels a pull, as if something is calling to him, urging him to continue his search. The journal had mentioned that a ritual could potentially open the gates once again, but Daniel had dismissed it. As he stands there, a shadowy figure appears before him, a vision of Sarah, or at least her spirit. She warns him of the coming darkness, her voice filled with urgency. But she also reveals something terrifying. Daniel's bloodline is connected to the cult's origins. He is not a mere outsider, but a descendant of those who once helped the cult rise to power. Daniel is the final piece of the puzzle. Before he can react, the ground beneath him cracks open, and a torrent of shadowy tendrils erupts from the earth. The Master, having slowly regained strength over the years, is now pulling itself back into the world through Daniel, attempting to take control of his body and mind. As he fights against it, Daniel realizes that his connection to the cult has given the Master a perfect vessel to enter the world once again. A fight for the soul. Daniel, now fully aware of the stakes, struggles to resist the evil trying to claim him. As visions of his ancestors, the ones who helped create the evil in the first place, flash before him. He sees their twisted faces, promising power and immortality if he accepts the master. He is torn between his desire for knowledge, revenge for the horrors of the past, and the realization that he must make a choice to either embrace the evil or stop it forever. Desperate to break free, Daniel seeks the help of the remaining survivors of the previous generation, including an elderly Professor Langley, who had long since retired from the occult world. Langley, having lived with the burden of knowing the truth, reveals the final secret: the only way to sever the master's hold on the world is for the true heir of the cult, Daniel, to willingly sacrifice himself, forever binding his soul to the darkness, preventing the master from entering. But the price is steep. If Daniel takes the ritual upon himself, he will never be able to return to the world of the living. His sacrifice will forever keep the gate closed, but his soul will become the eternal guardian, cursed to dwell in the abyss for all time. The final confrontation. Daniel faces his ultimate trial in the depths of the forest, where the master's presence grows stronger by the second. As he stands before the site of the ancient ritual, he is confronted by the warden, a twisted and monstrous version of the figure Ethan had once faced. The warden taunts Daniel, offering him a path of power and vengeance, to rule the world alongside the master. As the warden unleashes hellish visions and dark magic to tempt Daniel, the young man finally realizes the only way to break the cycle of darkness once and for all is to end it entirely, without hope of return. With great sorrow and determination, Daniel begins the ancient incantation, drawing on his bloodline's power to complete the ritual that will lock the master away forever. But as the ritual unfolds, the master, now possessing Daniel's body, tries to turn the tables, attempting to use Daniel's own strength against him. In an intense battle of wills, Daniel's mind fights against the darkness, pushing it back until the ritual is complete. The master screams in agony as the portal to the underworld reopens briefly, only to be sealed forever. Daniel's form begins to dissolve into shadows, becoming one with the very force he fought to contain. Epilogue. Ashford, now a quiet town, remains untouched by the horrors that had once plagued it. The forest, though dark and foreboding, holds no trace of the evil that once resided within it. Life moves forward, and the people who remain remember nothing of the terror that once gripped them. But on certain nights, when the wind howls through the trees, some say they can hear faint whispers, as though a voice is familiar yet distant, is calling out from the depths of the forest. A guardian, trapped between worlds, forever watching over the gate that must never be opened again. And as the years pass, some wonder, is the darkness truly gone, or does it linger, biding its time for another chance to rise? The end. Or is it? The Boy Unleashes the Gates of Evil, Part 5, The Awakening of the Endless Night. Genre, horror, mystery, drama. Opening scene. It has been decades since Daniel's sacrifice, decades since the last remnants of the darkness were sealed away, and Ashford finally seemed to breathe freely again. The town, once cursed, now lives under the faintest veil of tranquility. The people are unaware of the price that was paid to rid the world of the terror that once haunted them. Yet, as the years pass, a deep, unspoken fear begins to build. The evil that had been contained for so long is not truly gone, and something is stirring once more. In the heart of Ashford, a new arrival, Elena, a historian specializing in forgotten occult histories, begins researching the ancient events that have shaped the town. She is drawn to Ashford's past, sensing an eerie connection to something she cannot quite explain. The signs are subtle at first: a cold chill in the air, the sudden disappearance of certain townspeople, and, most chilling of all, the return of the same ancient symbols that once marked the rise of evil. As Elena digs deeper, she discovers forgotten letters, hidden in the town's archives, the words of Professor Langley, the journal entries of Sarah, and even Daniel's cryptic writings, all speak of the same thing: the darkness never truly rests. The master has not been fully destroyed. The echoes of the evil that Daniel tried to seal away still remain, lingering in the cracks between the worlds. And now, it has found a new way to rise. The Cult Reborn. Elena's research soon reveals the existence of a new cult, one that has been quietly gathering power in secret, calling themselves the Architects of the Abyss. They have spent decades attempting to revive the ancient rituals that would open the gate once more. They believe that the end of humanity is not something to fear, but something to embrace. The architects worship the master, and they seek to unleash it in its truest form, an entity that will reshape the world into an eternal, nightmarish kingdom. Elena is horrified when she realizes that the cult is not just interested in the power of the master, they want to merge the world of the living with the underworld, bringing an unending darkness to the earth. Their plan is simple yet devastating. They will resurrect the master by using a descendant of Sarah's bloodline, and Elena herself is that bloodline. Her shock is compounded by the revelation that, in her past, her family had once been tied to the cult. Elena is the last living relative of the family that helped bring the darkness into the world, the very family that had, in ancient times, aided the cult in its mission. Her bloodline is both a curse and a key, the final piece needed to open the gates for the master to return. The awakening begins. As Elena realizes the magnitude of her connection to the cult, the horror becomes clear. The architects have been manipulating events for years, drawing Elena closer to their plans. Her arrival in Ashford was no accident. They knew she would come, that her blood would draw her to the town's dark past, to the very place where the master had been sealed. Elena's nightmares become more frequent and violent, filled with visions of shadowy figures, blood-stained rituals, and the screams of people long dead. She begins to hear whispers in the wind, voices calling her name, urging her to join them. The gates are calling to her, promising her unimaginable power, eternal life, and the chance to bring a new order to the world. As the whispers grow louder, Elena becomes torn between her desire to stop the cult and the pull of the darkness that lies within her. She begins to fear that the evil has already claimed her, that her fate is sealed, and no matter how hard she tries to escape, the master will rise again through her. The return of the warden. Meanwhile, the cult's influence begins to spread throughout the town, causing unexplainable disappearances and a rise in violent, erratic behavior. The warden, the very figure who had once served as the enforcer of the master's will, returns from the shadows. But this time, he is not the same. His form is more monstrous, more twisted, as if the very essence of the master is infusing him with power. His eyes glow with an unnatural light, and he has come not only to reclaim Elena but to ensure the master's return. With the warden leading the charge, the cult makes its move, bringing about a series of blood sacrifices to prepare the final ritual. As Ashford begins to descend into chaos, Elena's last hope lies with the surviving members of the Old Guard, those who had fought against the cult in the past. Professor Langley's great-granddaughter, Abigail, a young occultist in her own right, reaches out to Elena. She explains that the old rituals may have failed to fully seal the master, but there is still a chance to reverse the damage. There is one final artifact, the Eye of the Abyss, an ancient relic believed to have the power to absorb the master's essence and lock it away once and for all. But to use the artifact, they must perform the ritual in the heart of the original temple, where the master had once been imprisoned. They must confront the cult head-on, stop the ritual before it is completed, and prevent Elena's bloodline from being the key that unlocks the darkness. The final showdown. In a harrowing final showdown, Elena, Abigail, and a small group of survivors confront the cult at the temple's ruins. The air crackles with dark energy as the ritual reaches its peak. Elena is forced to confront the terrifying truth. The master is already beginning to take shape, and the cult is on the verge of completing the final incantation that will merge their world with the underworld. As Elena prepares to perform the ritual with Abigail's help, the warden attacks, determined to stop them at any cost. The battle is fierce, with the town around them collapsing into chaos. Elena can feel the pull of the darkness, the master's voice calling her name. In the heat of the moment, she almost succumbs to it, almost lets go of the final shred of her humanity. But just as the darkness threatens to overwhelm her, Elena makes the ultimate decision. She will not be the vessel for this evil. With Abigail's guidance, she activates the Eye of the Abyss, using its power to absorb the master's essence and channel it into a containment spell. The temple trembles, and a massive surge of energy erupts as the ritual concludes. The aftermath. The darkness is sealed once again, the cult is defeated, the warden vanquished, and the world is saved, for now. Elena, her soul nearly destroyed by the ordeal, collapses in exhaustion. She knows that the evil has been contained, But she also knows that it will never fully disappear. The darkness is a part of the world now, a force that can never truly be erased. It will always find a way to return. Ashford begins to rebuild, though its people will never forget the horrors that once plagued them. Elena, now free from the cult's influence, decides to leave the town behind. She knows that the fight is not over, and she must continue searching for ways to ensure that the Master and its followers are never allowed to rise again. As Elena walks away from Ashford, the wind howls through the trees, and for a brief moment, she hears a whisper, faint, distant, and yet unmistakable. The evil may be gone for now, but the gates will always be waiting. The end, for now. Until the next chapter of The Darkness. The Boy Unleashes the Gates of Evil, Part 6, The Shadows Never Rest. Genre, horror, mystery, drama. Opening scene. It's been a decade since Elena sealed the Master away. A decade since the final battle at Ashford's ancient temple. The town, though scarred by the horrors of the past, has rebuilt itself, its citizens living in relative peace. But a growing tension lingers just beneath the surface. The nightmares have returned, not just for Elena, but for others who were touched by the evil that once plagued Ashford. A dark force, like an unrelenting shadow, stretches its reach once again. The echoes of the Master still resonate, and the truth becomes clear. Darkness is not something that can be erased. It is something that waits, watching, ready to return. New arrivals. A new generation of people has come to Ashford, unaware of the dark history that haunts the town. David, a young, ambitious journalist, arrives in the town seeking a story. He's heard rumors of strange happenings and disappearances in the area, all pointing to the same thing: something is stirring. His arrival coincides with a series of inexplicable events, mysterious symbols appearing in town, animals found dead in bizarre and unnatural ways, and whispers of a figure who has been seen lurking in the woods at night. David, driven by curiosity and his desire for a big break, begins to dig into Ashford's history. His investigation leads him to old newspapers, records, and first-hand accounts of the events surrounding the cult, the gates, and the Master. In his research, he stumbles upon Elena's name, uncovering the details of her involvement in the final battle. Intrigued by her story, David tracks her down, hoping she will provide him with the answers he seeks. Elena's struggles. Meanwhile, Elena, having left Ashford years ago, is living a quiet life in a small town far from the horrors she endured. But the peace she's found is fleeting. The nightmares that plagued her before have returned with a vengeance, and her sense of dread deepens with each passing night. She knows the evil that once tried to consume the world has never truly gone away. She has felt its presence, its whispers, calling to her from the shadows. Elena tries to bury the past, but she can no longer ignore the pull of the darkness. She realizes that her bloodline is still connected to the ancient curse, and her attempts to outrun it are futile. She must face it once again, even if it means returning to Ashford. She contacts Abigail, hoping for guidance, but when she arrives, she learns that the young occultist has gone missing. A dark legacy unfolds. As David and Elena team up to uncover the truth, they begin to realize that the cult, though defeated, never truly died. It was simply waiting for the right moment to awaken again. The architects of the abyss had been growing in strength, their influence spreading across the world. Their ultimate goal remains the same: to bring about the final rise of the Master, a reign of terror that will swallow the earth in darkness. But now, the cult has a new plan, one that is even more insidious than before. The Master, weakened by its previous defeats, has found a new way to resurrect itself, by using the memories of those who were touched by its presence. The remnants of the Master's influence lie in the minds of those who experienced its horrors, in the blood of its past victims, and in the town of Ashford itself. The darkness is not only trying to return through a bloodline, but through the very memories and fears of those who survived its wrath. The rise of the Shadow Cult. David and Elena soon learn of a new, hidden faction of the architects, calling themselves the Shadow Cult. This faction believes that in order to bring the Master back fully, they must reawaken the memories of the past and use them as vessels to open the gates once again. To do this, they begin targeting individuals who were once part of the original conflict, people like Elena, David, and the townspeople of Ashford. They infiltrate the town, using psychological manipulation and dark rituals to unlock memories that should have remained sealed. As the shadow cult works its dark magic, strange things begin happening around Ashford. The dead seem to walk again, appearing as ghostly figures, their memories twisted by the master's influence. People who were once safe and secure now suffer from disturbing dreams and visions. The gates of evil are not just a physical location, they are within the minds of the survivors, a connection the cult is using to reopen the rift. The battle for the soul. Elena and David, now realizing the true extent of the threat, form an uneasy alliance with other survivors, Abigail's younger brother, Nathaniel, who has grown into a skilled occultist in his own right, and Ivy, a local historian with a personal connection to the town's dark past. Together, they work to find a way to sever the connection between the cult and the memories that bind them to the master's return. As they investigate further, they uncover an ancient ritual, one that, if performed correctly, could sever the hold the master has on the minds of the townspeople and destroy the shadow cult once and for all. But there is a catch. The ritual requires a powerful sacrifice. One of them must give up their memories, erasing any trace of the past, including all the knowledge of the master and the evil they have fought against. This sacrifice will ensure the master can never return, but it will come at a cost. The chosen individual will be left with no memory of who they are, no memory of their battles, and no memory of their lives. The final confrontation. The shadow cult, now aware of Elena and her group's efforts, prepares to initiate the final stage of the ritual, the resurrection of the master. As the cultists gather in an ancient crypt beneath the ruins of the old temple, the darkness begins to surge, warping the town into a nightmarish reflection of itself. Elena and David, along with their allies, descend into the crypt for a final confrontation, hoping to stop the ritual before the master can fully return. As they face off against the cult, they are forced to confront their deepest fears, memories of their pasts, the horrors they've faced, and the loss they've endured. Each person must decide if they are willing to sacrifice themselves and their memories for the greater good. The master is nearly unleashed. Its form a swirling mass of darkness, terror, and ancient power. In the final moments, Elena makes the ultimate decision. She will be the one to sacrifice herself. She steps forward, activating the ritual to erase the master's influence. As her memories begin to fade, she feels the weight of everything she has lost, the people she's loved, the battles she's fought, and the pain of the past. But in this moment, she knows it is the only way to truly end the cycle. With a final surge of energy, Elena completes the ritual, severing the master's hold on the world. The crypt collapses, the darkness recedes, and the town of Ashford is saved once again, but at a terrible cost. Elena is left a blank slate, her memories gone, her connection to the past erased. Epilogue. Ashford is once again free from the evil that had plagued it for so long. The survivors return to their lives, but Elena remains a shadow of her former self, wandering the town without any memory of her past or the horrors she fought to end. David, now deeply changed by the experience, decides to stay in Ashford, keeping watch over the town, ever vigilant against the darkness that might one day return. The gates have closed for now, but as the wind blows through the trees and the shadows stretch across the town, the whispers never fully fade, for in the deepest corners of the world, the master waits his patient, biding its time. The end, or the beginning of the next dark chapter.